Hello, my friends. This is Nikki. Thank you for joining me for episode 72 of Learning About the Lord. Today, Jesus is going to Joseph of Arimathea's house. We are reading from the book Poem of the Man God by Maria Valturta, Volume 1. And Jesus has been invited to Joseph of Arimathea's house to meet and speak with some of the other Pharisees, including Gamaliel, who is the most respected and revered Pharisee of their time. Arimathea is a mountainous town. Jesus is with Simon Zealot and Thomas. There are no other apostles with him. I can hear them speaking of Joseph of Arimathea, and Thomas, who knows him very well, describes his beautiful large estate, which stretches along the mountain. Thomas praises the fields that Joseph possesses along the roads on the plain. At least men are not treated like animals here, says Simon Zealot. In fact, the workers here are well fed and clothed, and have the appearance of satisfied people who are well. They greet respectfully, because they obviously know who the tall, handsome man is, who is going to the house of their master along the countryside of Arimathea, and they watch him, speaking among themselves in low voices. When Joseph's house comes into sight, a servant, after bowing low, asks, "Are you the rabbi we are expecting?" "I am," replies Jesus. The servant salutes, bowing again, and runs to inform the landlord. Joseph of Arimathea, in his wide fringed robe, comes to meet him and bows very low with his arms folded on his chest. It is not the humble salutation of a person who acknowledges in Jesus the God become flesh, and who humbles himself by kneeling to the ground to kiss his feet or the hem of his tunic, but it is a salutation of deep respect. Jesus also bows and then gives his greeting of peace. "Come in, Master," says Joseph. "You have made me happy by accepting my invitation. I was not expecting so much compliance from you." "Why not?" asks Jesus. "I go also to Lazarus's house?" "Lazarus is a friend of yours," says Joseph. "I am a stranger." And Jesus answers, "You are a soul seeking the truth. The truth, therefore, does not reject you." "Are you the truth?" asks Joseph of Arimathea. And the Lord answers, "I am the way, the life, and the truth. He who loves and follows me will have the certain way, the blessed life, and will know God, because God, besides being love and justice, is truth." "You are a great doctor," says Joseph of Arimathea. "Wisdom emanates from every word of yours." He then turns to Simon Zealot. "I am happy that you have come back to my house too, after such a long absence." "I was not absent of my own accord," answers Simon Zealot. "You are aware of my fate and of how many tears were shed during the life of this little Simon of whom your father was so fond. If you remember, Simon Zealot had a disease that he received from his own father. It looked like a type of leprosy, and Jesus cured him of it." "I know," says Joseph, "and I think that you know that I never spoke one word against you." "I know everything," says Simon Zealot. "My faithful servant told me that I am indebted also to you if my property was respected. May God reward you for it." "And I am Thomas," says the other apostle. "Ah, yes," says Joseph of Arimathea. "Is your old father still alive?" "Yes," says Thomas, "still alive, in his business with my brothers. I left him for the Master, but he is happy that I did." "He is a true Israelite," says Joseph of Arimathea, "and since he has got to the point of believing that Jesus of Nazareth is the Messiah, he can but be happy that his son is amongst his favorites." They are now in the garden near the house. "I have kept Lazarus," says Joseph. "He is in the library reading a summary of the last meetings of the Sanhedrin. He did not want to stay because of his sister. I know that you already are aware. That is why he did not want to stay. But I said, no, it is not fair that you should be so ashamed. No one will insult you in my house. Please stay. Who ignores his surroundings is alone against the whole world, and since in the world there is more wickedness than goodness, Who is alone is knocked down and trodden on. Was I not right? Asks Joseph. Here Joseph is exhibiting the virtue of loving thy neighbor. And he also is making mention of something we've heard, and it says, no man is an island. In other words, we do not live alone in this world. We need to be aware of our surroundings. We need to be aware of other people. We need to accept faults. We need to be forgiving and kind and show in good measure a kindness to each other that we would also like to receive in our turn. Jesus says, you were right and you did the right thing. Master, today there will be Nicodemus and Gamaliel. Do you mind? Why should I mind? Asks Jesus. I acknowledge his wisdom. Yes, says Joseph. He was anxious to see you, and he wanted to insist on his point of view, you know, his ideas. He says that he has already seen the Messiah, and that he is waiting for the sign that he promised him at his revelation. He also says that you are a man of God. He does not say the man, he says a man of God. A rabbinical subtlety, is it not? You are not offended, are you? Now I just want to remind you that when Jesus was 12 and his family traveled to Jerusalem, he was lost for 3 days. And those 3 days he was actually in the temple speaking with the Pharisees and the Sanhedrin. And that is what Gamaliel is referring to when he says that he has already met the Messiah. He did meet Jesus when he was 12 years old. And there was great discussion and great wisdom from that meeting coming from Jesus. And Gamaliel is still searching for that child who is now a grown man. And he doesn't yet know that Jesus is that man, that boy he met many, many years before. And Jesus answers Joseph and he says, subtlety, you are right. We must bear with them. The best ones will prune by themselves all the superfluous branches that make them bear foliage, but no fruit, and they will come to me. I wanted to inform you of his words, says Joseph, because he will certainly repeat them to you. He is frank. A rare virtue, says Jesus, which I appreciate very much. Joseph says, I also said to him that Lazarus of Bethany is with the Master. I told him because of his sister. But Gamaliel replied, is she present? No. Well then, the mud falls off the garment, which is no longer in the mud. Lazarus has shaken it off himself, and he does not contaminate my garment with it. And then I am of the opinion that if a man of God goes to Lazarus's house, I, a doctor of the law, can go there too. And of course they're talking about Mary Magdalene, the sinner, the prostitute, the sister of Lazarus. Gamaliel's judgment is correct, says Jesus. He is a Pharisee and a doctor to the backbone, but still honest and just. I am happy to hear you say so, Master, says Joseph. Here is Lazarus. Lazarus bends down to kiss Jesus' tunic. He is happy to be with him. They have now entered the very rich hall where the tables have been laid, and they are waiting only for Gamaliel and Nicodemus, because 4 other guests have already arrived. I hear them being introduced with their respective names: Felix, John, Simon, and Cornelius. There is a great stir and rushing of servants when Nicodemus and Gamaliel arrive. Gamaliel is always stately in his snow-white robe, which he wears with regal majesty. Joseph rushes to meet him, and their reciprocal salutations are pompous exchanges of respect. Also Jesus is bowed, and he bows to the great rabbi, who greets him with the salutation, "The Lord be with you," to which Jesus replies, "And may his peace always be your companion." Also Lazarus bows down, and all the others do likewise. Gamaliel sits at the center of the table. He is very dignified, but not proud. He listens more than he speaks, but anyone can understand that he ponders on every word of Jesus and often looks at him with his deep, dark, severe eyes. No direct allusion is made to Jesus' personality until the meal is almost over. Then a discussion starts between the guest named Felix and Lazarus, who was later joined and supported by Nicodemus, and finally by the guest named John, on miracles as proof, in favor or against a person. Jesus is silent. He sometimes smiles in a mysterious way, but he is silent. Also Gamaliel is quiet. His elbow is leaning on the bed, and he is staring at Jesus. He seems to be wishing to decipher some supernatural word engraved on the pale smooth skin of Jesus' thin face. He seems to be analyzing every fiber of it. Felix maintains that John's holiness is incontestable, and from such undisputed and indisputable holiness he draws a conclusion unfavorable to Jesus the Nazarene, the author of many famous miracles. He says, miracles are not a proof of holiness, because the life of the prophet John is devoid of them, and yet no one in Israel leads a life like his. There are no banquets, no friendships, no comforts for him. He suffers and is imprisoned for the sake of the law. He lives in solitude, because although he has disciples, he does not live with them, and he finds faults also in the most honest and thunders out against everybody. Whereas, well, this master here of Nazareth has worked miracles, it is true, but I see that he too loves what life offers and does not disdain friendships. And forgive me if one of the elders of the Sanhedrin says this to you. He is too easy in giving, in God's name, forgiveness and love to well-known sinners marked by anathema. You should not do that, Jesus. Jesus smiles but does not speak. Lazarus replies in his stead. Our powerful Lord is free to direct his servants as and where he wishes. He granted the power of working miracles to Moses. He did not grant it to Aaron, his first high priest. So, what is your conclusion? Is one more holy than the other? Certainly, answers Felix. Then Jesus is more holy because he works miracles, says Lazarus. Felix is disconcerted, but he raises a captious objection. Aaron had already been given the pontificate. It was enough. No, my friend, replies Nicodemus. His pontificate was a mission, a holy mission, but nothing more than a mission. Not always and not all the high priests of Israel were holy men, and yet they were high priests even if they were not holy. You are not saying that the high priest is a man devoid of grace, exclaims Felix. Felix, don't let us play with fire. You, Gamaliel, Joseph, Nicodemus, and I, we all know many things, says the guest named John. What? What? Gamaliel, say something. Felix is scandalized. If he is fair, he will speak the truth, which you do not want to hear, say the three men who are bitter against Felix. Joseph of Arimathea endeavors to bring about peace. Jesus is silent as well as Thomas, Simon Zealot, and the other Simon, the friend of Joseph. Gamaliel seems to be playing with the fringes of his robe, but he looks at Jesus inquisitively. Speak then, Gamaliel, shouts Felix. Yes, do speak, say the three opponents. I say, the frailties of the family are to be concealed, says Gamaliel. So what's he saying? He's saying that even in the Sanhedrin, those who are not good, those who are evil, they're not to be spoken about. That is not an answer, shouts Felix. It looks as if you are admitting that there are faults in the house of the high priest. He is the soul of truth, reply the three men. Gamaliel draws himself up and turns towards Jesus. Here is the master who overshadows the most learned men. Let him speak about it. And Jesus says, You wish so, and I obey. I say a man is a man. A mission is beyond man. But man invested with a mission becomes capable of accomplishing it as a superman, when through a holy life he has God as his friend. It is he who said, You are a priest according to the order given by me. What is written on the pectoral? Doctrine and truth. That is what the high priest ought to possess. Doctrine is acquired by constant meditation, aiming at the knowledge of the most wise one. Truth is achieved by means of absolute loyalty to good. He who intrigues with evil finds falsehood and loses truth. Very well, says Gamaliel. You have replied as a great rabbi. I, Gamaliel, am telling you, you surpass me. Let him explain then, raves Felix, why Aaron did not work miracles and Moses did. Jesus replies readily, because Moses had to impose himself on the dull, heavy, and even hostile mass of the Israelites, and had to succeed in having ascendancy over them, in order to bend them to the will of God. Man is the eternal savage and the eternal child. He is struck by what exceeds the common order of things, and a miracle is such. It is a light waved before dim eyes. It is a sound produced near plugged ears. It wakes people up. It draws their attention. It makes them say, God is here. You are saying that to your own benefit, retorts Felix. To my benefit? Asks Jesus. What do I gain by working a miracle? Do I look taller if I stand on a blade of grass? Such is a miracle with regard to holiness. There are saints who never worked miracles. There are magicians and necromancers who work them by means of dark powers. That is, they do superhuman things, which, however, are not holy, and they are demons. I shall be I, even if I work no more miracles. Excellent, says Gamaliel. You are great, Jesus. And according to you, says Felix to Gamaliel, who is this great man? The greatest prophet I know, both with regard to his deeds and his words, replies Gamaliel. He is the Messiah, says Joseph of Arimathea. I am telling you, Gamaliel, believe me, you are wise and just. What, says Felix, you too, the guide of the Judeans, the elder, our glory, are falling into this idolatry of a man? Who can prove to you that he is the Christ? I will not believe him, even if I see him work miracles. Why does he not work one in front of us? You that praise him should tell him, and you too that defend him. I did not invite him to amuse my friends, replies Joseph gravely, and I beg you to remember that he is my guest. Felix gets up and goes away, a cross and rude man. There is silence. Jesus turns to Gamaliel. Are you not asking for miracles to believe? And Gamaliel says, It will not be the miracles of a man of God to remove the thorn I have in my heart, that is, 3 questions that are always without an answer. Which questions? Asks Jesus. And Gamaliel says, Is the Messiah alive? Was it that one? Is it this one? It is he, I tell you, Gamaliel, exclaims Joseph. Don't you think that he is holy, different, powerful? You do? Well then, what are you waiting to believe? Gamaliel does not reply to Joseph. He turns to Jesus. Once, do not be upset, Jesus, if I am tenacious of my ideas. Once, when the great wise Hillel was still alive, we both believed that the Messiah was in Israel. There was a great brightness of a divine sunshine on that cold day in a bitter winter. It was Passover. Men were worried about the frozen crops. I said, after I heard those words, Israel has been saved, as from today there will be abundance in the fields and blessings in our hearts. The expected one has revealed himself in his first refulgence. And I was not wrong. You may all remember the harvest of that embolismic year, a year of 13 months, as it happens also this year. Which words did you hear? Who spoke them? They ask. One, said Gamaliel, a little more than a child, but God was shining on his innocent, gentle face. I have been thinking of it and remembering it for the last 19 years, and I tried to hear that voice again, that spoke words of wisdom. In which part of the world does he now live? I ponder. He was God in the appearance of a little boy, in order not to frighten men, and like lightning that dashing across the sky appears flashing northwards, southwards, eastwards, and westwards, he, the divine being, in his appearance of merciful beauty, with the face and voice of a child and a divine mind, wanders on the earth to say to men, I am. So I think, when will he come back to Israel? When? And I think, when Israel will become the altar for his feet, and my heart moans, seeing the abjection of Israel. Never. Oh, what a harsh reply, but true. Can the holiness descend into its Messiah as long as there is abomination among us? So you can see that Gamaliel believes that Israel is not worthy of Christ to come to it, and he does not accept Jesus as the Christ child. But Jesus replies and answers him, and he says, it can and does descend because it is mercy. He's saying that holiness can and does descend to earth because God is mercy. Just like today, also like today, we receive God's works in the form of books, in the form of written messages, in the form of his new apostles preaching the word of God out into the world. Gamaliel looks at Jesus pensively and then asks, what is your true name? And Jesus stands up stately and he says, I am who I am, the thought and the word of the Father. I am the Messiah of the Lord. You? Asks Gamaliel. I cannot believe it. Great is your holiness. But that child, in whom I do believe, said then, I will give a sign. These stones will vibrate when my hour comes. I am awaiting that hour to believe. Can you give it to me to convince me that you are the expected one? Now the sign that Jesus spoke of is actually given at Jesus' death on the cross. When he says these stones will vibrate when my hour comes, he's talking about when he dies on the cross during his crucifixion. There is a great earthquake, and the walls surrounding the temple in Jerusalem fall and break. Those are the stones that vibrate. In fact, the earth is vibrating. And Gamaliel believes that that sign has to be given now. He does not understand the prophecy of those words. They are now both standing, tall, stately, one in his wide white linen robe, the other in his plain, dark red woolen tunic, one elderly, the other young, both with deep, dominating eyes staring at each other. Jesus then lowers his right arm, which he had folded on his chest, as if he were swearing, and he exclaims, You want that sign? And you will have it. I repeat the far-off words. The stones of the temple of the Lord will vibrate hearing my last words. Wait for that sign, Doctor of Israel, a just man, and then believe if you wish to be forgiven and saved. Blessed before time if you could believe before, but you cannot. Centuries of wrong beliefs on a just promise and heaps of pride are your bulwark against truth and faith. You are right, says Gamaliel. I will wait for that sign. Goodbye, the Lord be with you. Goodbye, Gamaliel, says Jesus. May the eternal Spirit enlighten you and guide you. They all greet Gamaliel, who goes away with Nicodemus, John, and Simon, the Sanhedrin member, Jesus, Joseph, Lazarus, Thomas, Simon Zealot, and Cornelius stay. He will not bend, says Joseph. I would like him to be one of your disciples. He would be of conclusive weight in your favor, but I am unable. Do not worry, says Jesus. No weight can save me from the storm which is already approaching. But Gamaliel if he does not bend in my favor, will not bend against Christ either. He is one who is waiting. So we see here that some members of the Sanhedrin were followers of Jesus. They had to keep it pretty quiet because they were the minority. Joseph of Arimathea and Nicodemus did believe that Jesus was the Christ. Gamaliel did not believe until Jesus' crucifixion and death, and then when the walls tumbled around the temple in Jerusalem, he finally understood the prophecy that Jesus had given him as a 12-year-old and again as a grown man in his 30s. And then Gamaliel believed. What a pity to have wasted having been able to know Jesus those few years he walked on the earth in his public life, to have been able to learn from him and grow from him and not believe in him until after he was dead. So I say to you, thank you for joining me for this lesson. Open your hearts, open your minds. Hold on to Jesus. Believe in him. He is God. He is love. He is the way, the life, and the truth. I ask the Lord to bless you. Go with God.